Hey, what's going on, everybody? My name is Brandon Pettijohn. Today we're going to be talking about the shooting death of Chad Reed in Lubbock, Texas. If you haven't heard about this controversial shooting, it involves a dad, a mom who are now divorced, a boyfriend, a judge, and an AR-15. Now let's kind of break this down a little bit.
I get him at 315. Here, if you wanted to see him or not, I get him at 315. If you want to see him, you see him up until 315. You keep trying to keep my son from me. I'm fixing to drag you and Anne Marie and everybody else into court. I'm subpoenaing your mom. I'm subpoenaing Anne Marie. On video. Leave! Do it right! You're gonna use it, mother. I'll take it from you.
Call 911. Call 911. Call 911. Call 911. Call 911. Call 911.
So the couple was in an argument, and Chad says that he's going to start subpoenaing people, and he's going to send the cops to his ex-wife's house, and he's going to file charges for interfering with a lawful court order. Now, if there is a court order in place and the child was being held from him, he does have that right to pursue that in a court of law. However, at the point where Kyle Carruth tells him to leave his property, technically he doesn't have any more rights to be on that property. Now, Kyle's defense attorney has come out and they've made a castle doctrine argument based on stand your ground. Texas is a stand your ground state, meaning that a person, a man or a woman, is the king or queen of their castle and they have the right to defend that castle. However, there's a caveat. You cannot use deadly force in order to protect a property right specifically. There has to be some sort of a threat of substantial bodily harm or death upon you or an occupant or inhabitant of that property. Now, the defense attorney argues that a statement made by Chad qualified as that threat, where he threatens to take his gun away from him. Let's go back over that again.
Do it right! You're gonna use it, mother. I'll take it from you.
Now, Kyle Carruth's attorneys argue that by him stating that he is going to take his firearm from him physically by force and getting in his face, that constituted a threat. However, I have a problem with the next sequence of events with that argument.
Call 911. Call 911. Call 911. Call 911.
If you were able to see in that clip, Kyle Carruth actually fires a warning shot. Now, in everyday regular civilian life, there is no such thing as a warning shot. The implementation of that firearm, of that weapon, pulling the trigger and sending a round downrange through a barrel down into the dirt is use of deadly force. At that time, he utilized deadly force. Now, whether he hit him or not does not matter. He has then used deadly force. Now, what happens next is interesting based on an argument that you might be able to make. As you can see, Kyle Carruth is then thrown by Chad Reed into the yard like he is a 5-year-old getting thrown like a rag doll. Now, Kyle Carruth's attorneys are arguing that right there was provocation and he feared for his life because coupled with the earlier statement where he said that he was going to take the gun from him, presumably you can't see in the clip, he takes a step towards him and he justifies use of lethal force at that point. I have a problem with this for one reason. Because Kyle Carruth implemented and used deadly force, Chad Reed at that point was able to invoke the self-defense argument himself if he were still here. And he was meeting, not even exceeding, but meeting that use of deadly force that was in fact instigated by Kyle Carruth. Since this is a stand your ground state, I don't know whether the local district attorney's office is going to be willing to file charges based on the sequence of events. Now, Chad Reed's family is obviously upset and they're calling for some outside investigation due to Kyle Carruth's ex-wife being a judge in that town and no forward momentum on, the investigation at all at this point. Although there might not be criminal charges, I think that the family of Chad Reed could easily bring a wrongful death lawsuit based on negligence and win, not only win, but recover heavily from Kyle Carruth. Here's why. Although they're a stand your ground state, that does not give you carte blanche to shoot whoever comes onto your property. You cannot use deadly force in order to protect your property. That's just not something you're able to do. It's not something the courts are going to allow to happen. Now, the attorneys for Chad Reed's estate could make the argument that Kyle Carruth introducing a deadly weapon into a verbal argument was negligence. There was no threats prior to that we heard on camera, and there was no threats of physical violence or any posturing that we could see towards Kyle Carruth prior to that, except for some finger pointing. Now, the argument could be made that he was negligent in introducing that, even though the stand your ground laws are applicable, and in Texas, you can brandish a firearm if you think that that's going to de-escalate a situation. That's the argument that Kyle Carruth's attorney has made and is going to continue to make. However, being that it's a civil matter instead of a criminal matter, the burden of proof is a lot lower. In a criminal matter, the burden of proof is beyond a reasonable doubt. In a civil matter, the burden of proof is a preponderance of the evidence. The burden of proof is much lower in a civil matter, and we see this a lot. Take the O.J. Simpson case, for example. O.J. Simpson was found not guilty beyond a reasonable doubt by a jury of his peers in the criminal action. However, he was found guilty by a preponderance of the evidence in the civil action. It's very likely that a wrongful death lawsuit could be filed against Kyle Carruth, and it's very likely that the estate of Chad Reed could recover for said wrongful death. There's a lot of evidence that could allow the estate of Chad Reed to recover for wrongful death based on a preponderance of the evidence standard in a civil case. I think that there's negligence on behalf of Kyle Carruth in introducing a deadly weapon into an argument, a verbal argument, and potentially a property dispute. You can't use lethal force in order to enforce property rights. Second, he implemented and used deadly force by firing a warning shot, which raised the tensions even higher. Chad Reed, by law, was unable to defend himself. Kyle Carruth had to defend himself, and it was just a cascading landslide. I think where the negligence might come in is that if that weapon was never introduced, there probably never would have been a physical altercation at all, and Chad Reed would still be here today. This is an extremely sad situation. No parent should have to worry whether they're going to walk away from a custody exchange, dead or alive. I think that as far as a defense attorney goes, I think the criminal aspect is going to be much harder for the state to prove, but I think that there is a civil matter that could come into play. Hey, thank you all so much for stopping by. Go ahead and just like, comment, and share. Let me know if you want me to break down any other specific cases or if you like this format. All right, thanks.